I'm standing in Brooke's hallway holding a casserole dish with both hands when I hear it. The office door is closed. I wasn't trying to listen. I came in through the front door because my daughter texted me asking for soup, and I thought she might need help with the kids, and I used the key I've had for 2 years, and I walked down the hallway toward the kitchen. That's when Miles's voice stops me. He doesn't know I'm there. He's speaking in the particular tone people use when they're saying something they'd choose different words for if they knew they had an audience. Not loud. Controlled. The voice of a man making a point he wants to land clearly. Your mom is a problem, he says. She needs to stop showing up. I go completely still in the hallway. The casserole dish is warm through the oven mitts I'm still wearing. Brooke's voice is softer. I have to concentrate to hear it through the door. Please, Miles, not tonight. Then choose, he says. No softening, no hesitation. There's a silence that stretches out long enough to have weight. Then Brooke says something that will stay with me longer than anything else I hear tonight. Her voice breaks in the middle of it, not dramatically, just the way a voice breaks when someone is trying to hold something together that's already starting to come apart. What if she has nowhere else? I stand in the hallway of my daughter's home holding a casserole dish of soup she asked me for, and I understand that this conversation has been happening for a while. That tonight is not the beginning of it. The office door creaks. Someone's hand on the knob. Miles is coming out. My name is Paula. I'm 55 years old and I've been a widow for 2 years. My husband Frank died of a heart attack on a Tuesday morning while he was getting dressed for work. No warning, no long illness, just Tuesday, and then the rest of my life without him. The grief was its own country I had to learn to live in. I'm still learning. Brooke is my only child. She and Miles got married 4 years ago, a small ceremony that Frank and I both attended and both loved. I liked Miles well enough in those early years. He was ambitious, organized, a little reserved, but attentive to Brooke in ways I appreciated. When Frank died, something shifted in how Miles saw me. I couldn't have named it at the time. Looking back, I think my widowhood rearranged me in his calculations. I became something different. A single older woman with a paid-off house and no one looking out for her. Brooke texted me the day before yesterday asking if I could bring soup. She does this sometimes. I babysit occasionally. I help with groceries when she mentions they're short before payday. I show up because she asks me to, and because she's my daughter, and because Frank would have wanted me to be present for her. I never considered myself a problem. I considered myself a mother. Hearing the word in Miles's voice, flat and certain and spoken about me in my daughter's own home, lands like a slap across the face. In the hallway, I hear the office door creak. His hand on the knob. He's coming out. I make a decision in about 2 seconds. I don't leave. I don't confront. I don't drop the casserole dish and let him know I heard. I take 3 quiet steps toward the kitchen and set the dish on the counter and pull off the oven mitts and am standing there looking perfectly ordinary when the office door opens all the way and Miles walks out. Miles opens the office door and the transformation is immediate. One moment, he's the man telling my daughter to choose. The next moment, he's walking down the hallway with a bright, genuine-seeming smile on his face, the kind that comes on fast, like a light switch being flipped. Paula, I didn't know you were here. He says it warmly, surprised and pleased. The performance of a man delighted by an unexpected visit from his mother-in-law. Brooke comes out behind him. She won't meet my eyes. She goes directly to the kitchen counter and moves the casserole dish 6 inches to the left, which is something she does when she's trying to look occupied. I match Miles's warmth exactly. Brooke texted me about soup. I didn't want to call ahead and make it a whole thing. Of course, of course. Miles claps his hands once, the gesture of a man wrapping up a topic. He walks to the refrigerator and looks into it like he's checking on something important. The kids are upstairs. Brooke mentioned you might stay for dinner? I look at Brooke. She's still looking at the counter. I probably won't stay, I say. Just wanted to drop this off. Miles turns from the refrigerator. His expression is still pleasant, still warm, but his eyes are doing something different. Evaluating. The way you look at a situation you need to manage. Actually, he says, as if the thought is just occurring to him, natural and casual, we should probably talk about your key. My hands, which are now resting on the counter, stay completely still. I don't let them tighten. The key, I say. Just for boundaries, you know, everyone needs healthy boundaries. He says it like it's a gift he's offering me. Like the word boundaries is something we both care about equally. Brooke still hasn't looked up from the counter. I hand the key over. I reach into my bag and find the Brooke and Miles house key on its small yellow keychain and put it on the kitchen counter. Miles picks it up without hesitation, pockets it. Brooke looks up then, briefly. The look she gives me is complicated in a way I don't have words for yet. It has apology in it, but also something that isn't apology, something that's closer to fear. I know this feels awkward, Miles says. It's not personal, we just think some clearer guidelines will help everyone. Of course, I say. And we've been talking about drop-bys, the unannounced visits. They're confusing for the kids and they disrupt our family routine. He pauses. We need you to stop dropping by. I think about the text message Brooke sent me 2 days ago. Can you bring soup? The direct, specific invitation that brought me here tonight. I don't mention it. I'm not certain yet why I don't mention it. Maybe because I'm still absorbing what's happening. Maybe because something in me is already beginning to understand that I need to be careful about what I say in this kitchen. Brooke finally speaks. Her voice is careful and practiced, the voice of someone reciting a conclusion they've reached in advance. Mom, can you just give us space? I look at my daughter, this person I raised, this person who texted me 2 days ago asking for soup, and who now can't meet my eyes. I nod. I say I understand. I say I'll give them space. I pick up my oven mitts and my bag and I walk to the front door with my back straight and my pace steady. In my car, I sit for a long time. Then my phone buzzes with a text from Brooke. He didn't mean it like that. Before I can respond, a second notification arrives. A text from Miles. I look at Miles's text for a long moment before I read it. The notification shows the first few words in the preview, and something about those words, their tone, the specific confidence they carry, tells me the full message isn't going to be better. I read it. Paula, for the sake of my family, please don't come to our house anymore unless we specifically invite you. Thank you for understanding. My family, not our family. Not even just family. My family. As if Brooke is a possession. As if the grandchildren are territories. As if I am something external to all of it. Something adjacent that requires management. I sit in the car in front of their house looking at those 2 words. My family. I've been a mother for 31 years. I've loved Brooke through ear infections and heartbreaks and college rejections and a grief so heavy it bent both of us when Frank died. And Miles is telling me in a text message that I am outside his family's borders. I put my phone down, start the car, drive. I'm about halfway home when my phone rings through the car's Bluetooth. My neighbor's name on the screen. Audrey, who lives 3 doors down and has my spare key for emergencies. I answer. Paula. Her voice is cautious. I don't want to alarm you, but there's a truck parked outside your place. Someone's working on your front door. I press the accelerator slightly. What kind of truck? Locksmith logo on the side. The guy said something about a smart lock installation. I hadn't ordered any smart lock installation. I hadn't ordered anything. I pull up to my house and the truck is still there. A man in a gray work shirt is finishing something at my front door. He sees me get out of the car and waits, which is the professional courtesy of someone who expects the homeowner to have questions. Mrs. Marston? He asks. Yes, what's happening here? Smart lock installation. The hub's in place, just doing the final pairing now. He holds up his phone showing an app. All set. The code was set during scheduling. I didn't schedule this. He looks at me, then at his work order on the phone. We have a confirmed order, paid in full. He shows me the screen. The address is mine. The billing contact is Miles Hargrove, my son-in-law. My husband's name is on the deed of this house. My name is on it now. Miles Hargrove's name is on neither. But his name is on the invoice for a lock installed on my door. I ask the locksmith to please not complete the pairing until I've had a chance to look at the work order. He's cooperative and professional about it. He waits. I photographed the invoice with my phone, Miles's name, my address, the lock model number, the installation date and time. Then I look at the note taped to my door, written in Brooke's handwriting on a piece of blue note paper. Safety upgrade. Love, Brooke. A gift. An unsolicited gift ordered by Miles, installed at my home without my knowledge or consent. On the same evening he told me to stop coming to their house. I stand on my own porch looking at a lock I didn't order, connected to an app I don't control, installed by someone whose name on the invoice is not mine. I ask the locksmith, politely, to please remove the installation. He does. He's professionally neutral about it, which I appreciate. After he leaves, I stand inside my house and think about what I know so far. I check my mail properly the next morning. Yesterday I only glanced at it, distracted by everything. Now I go through every piece carefully. Bills, circulars, a note from the Homeowners Association about leaf collection schedules, and one envelope I don't recognize. It's from a bank, not the bank I use. The return address is a financial institution I have a vague awareness of, a mid-sized regional bank that advertises heavily on television. Inside is a letter with language I have to read twice. It references a pre-approval notice and uses a phrase I don't understand in context, updated household income. I turn the envelope over looking for more information. Then I call the number on the letter. The representative who answers is pleasant and helpful. She asks for my name and the last 4 of my social security number to verify my identity. I give them. She types. I hear the sound of a keyboard working through the phone. "All right, Miss Marston," she says. "Is this about the joint application?" My throat tightens. "What joint application?" I say. A pause on her end. The pause of someone recalibrating. "I have a joint application here in your name," she says carefully. "Did you want to go over the details?" "I'd like to understand what application this is," I say, "because I didn't apply for anything." Another pause, this one longer. "Miss Marston," she says, "I think you may want to come into a branch in person." I'm at the bank the next morning when they open. I sit across from a branch manager named Harold Whitfield, who has the expression of a man who handles difficult situations with practiced professionalism. He pulls up my file, reads it again. He turns his monitor slightly toward me. There is an application on file with my name. It includes income documentation, employment history, a credit check. It lists Brooke's home address as the primary mailing address. The application is for a joint home equity line. The property listed as collateral is my home. I did not submit this application. I did not authorize anyone to submit it for me. I did not consent to my home being listed as collateral for anything. The application includes an electronic signature, time-stamped. The date is a Thursday, 3 weeks ago. On that Thursday, I was at the cemetery where Frank is buried. I go on Thursdays. I've been going on Thursdays since he died. I sat at his grave for 2 hours that particular Thursday because it was close to the anniversary of when we met, and I brought the same flowers I used to bring him on that anniversary when he was alive. The signature time-stamped on that document is from 3 weeks ago, on a Thursday afternoon. I was at a cemetery. I don't accuse anyone out loud in Harold Whitfield's office. I explain carefully that I did not create this application, that the signature is not mine, and that I'd like to know the fraud investigation procedure. He walks me through it. I take notes. Then he says something that makes the cold feeling in my chest spread outward. "Miss Marston, this isn't the only account tied to that email address." Harold Whitfield pulls 3 accounts. 2 I've never heard of. 1 I have an account at under a different email address, but the contact information has been updated without my knowledge. My phone number on the accounts has been replaced. The replacement number, when I write it down and look at it, is Brooke's cell phone number, not Miles's number. Brooke's. Which means whoever changed my contact information was either using Brooke's phone or using an account with access to Brooke's number. I sit with this information in Harold Whitfield's office and try to understand the shape of what I'm looking at. My home as collateral. An application in my name submitted while I was at a cemetery. Contact information updated to route my financial communications to my daughter's phone. Not random, not sloppy, organized. Each piece pointing in the same direction. Miles called me a problem. He took my spare key. He had a lock installed at my house under his name without asking me. He sent me a text telling me not to come to his house. He told Brooke to choose. He's been trying to remove me from the picture, not just emotionally, financially, structurally. Harold Whitfield refers me to the fraud team and gives me a case number. I thank him and leave with a folder of copies. In my car, I call Brooke. She answers on the second ring. She sounds like she's been crying, or close to it. "Mom," she says, "please don't do anything." Her voice, the specific quality of it. I've known my daughter's voice for 31 years. She sounds afraid. I choose a diner halfway between our houses. I text Brooke and say I need to see her, just the two of us, not at either house, somewhere neutral. She agrees in a way that feels like relief, like she's been waiting for someone to suggest something. She's already in a booth when I arrive. Her eyes are swollen in the way that happens when you've been crying in increments over several days rather than all at once. She has her hands wrapped around a coffee cup. I sit across from her and don't begin with the bank or the application or any of the things I know. I begin with her. "How are you?" I ask. She looks at me and something breaks in her expression. Not dramatically, just a small crumbling of the composed face she was holding ready. "I'm tired," she says. "Tell me." She talks for 20 minutes. Miles checks her phone. He calls it budgeting, says it's about tracking shared expenses, but he goes through her messages. He's told her multiple times that I confuse her, that I make her doubt herself, that my presence in her life turns her against him in ways she can't see because she's too close to me. He monitors her energy after my visits. He debriefs her. He asks what we talked about and frames her answers as evidence of my influence. He calls it concern. He calls it love. He calls it protecting their family. I reach across the table and put my hand over hers. She doesn't pull away. But for just a second, before she processes the gesture as coming from me, she flinches at the movement. That flinch. Small and involuntary and immediately corrected. It tells me more than 20 minutes of conversation. "Brooke," I say carefully, "he's using your house as leverage somehow, isn't he?" She looks at the table. "He said if you sell, we're done." I drive home from the diner more carefully than necessary, hands at the correct position on the wheel, eyes checking mirrors more than I need to. My mind is working through what Brooke told me. Miles has been talking to someone about options related to my house. He told Brooke that if I sell, they're done. But I haven't listed my house for sale. I haven't spoken to any real estate agent. I haven't done anything with my house except live in it. Which means Miles is tracking something he hasn't told anyone about openly. A plan involving my property that depends on things going a certain way. I get home and go directly to my filing cabinet. The cabinet in my bedroom where I keep property documents. The deed, the mortgage satisfaction papers from when Frank and I paid it off 11 years ago, the homeowner's insurance policies, the tax records. The drawer is slightly open, a 1/4 inch. I close it with the same care I always use and feel that it's lighter than it should be. I open it fully. The folder of property documents is there, but it's been shifted. The papers inside are in a different order from my system. And when I check for the copy of the deed I've kept since the day Frank and I bought the house, it's not in its usual spot. It's there. Just misplaced, but the cabinet has been gone through. Someone has been in this house, in this room, in this specific drawer. I sit on my bed and look at the open cabinet. I didn't give Miles a key, but Brooke has one. I call Deacon Riley. Deacon Riley has known me for 23 years. He officiated Frank's funeral. He helped Frank with a property matter years ago when a boundary dispute with a neighbor got complicated. And Frank said he was the most practical man he'd ever met when it came to turning a problem into a process. I call him from my kitchen and tell him most of what I've discovered. The bank application in my name, the signature time-stamped when I was at the cemetery, the contact information replacement, the filing cabinet. He listens without interrupting. Frank always said that was his best quality. "Paula," he says when I finish, "you don't fight a manipulator with emotion. Emotion is the tool they want you to use because emotion looks unstable and instability is what they're building a case around. You fight with facts, organized, documented, provable facts. I know that," I say, "but I need someone who knows what to do with the facts." "I know exactly who you need," he says. He calls me back in 40 minutes with a name and a number. Nora Beck. Property law and financial fraud, 22 years practicing. Her office is downtown in a building I've driven past 100 times. I call and get an appointment for the following morning. That night, I organize everything I have: the bank documents, the invoice from the locksmith, photos of Miles's texts, the notes from my conversation with Harold Whitfield. Mrs. Weller adjacent documentation, in this case, nothing from a neighbor, but my own dated calendar with the Thursday cemetery visits confirmed. Nora Beck's first question, the next morning across a conference table, is not what I expect. Did you ever co-sign anything for Brooke? The car loan. Brooke was 19. She needed a car to get to work. She didn't have established credit. I co-signed a small auto loan at a credit union that Frank and I had used for years. It was a normal thing a parent does. The loan was paid off. Has been paid off for 9 years. Nora Beck writes the details down carefully. Then she explains something I hadn't considered. Old co-sign agreements, even satisfied ones, can be used to construct narratives about financial interconnection, she says. Someone trying to claim authority over your finances could point to that old cosign as establishing a pattern, as evidence of an ongoing financial relationship. It doesn't hold up to legal scrutiny, but it's the kind of thing that sounds plausible to someone who doesn't know better. Miles doesn't know better, I say, or he's counting on others not knowing better. Both can be true. Nora sets down her pen. I'm going to pull your credit report right now with your authorization. I want to see the full picture. She pulls it on her office computer while I sit across from her. She goes through it methodically. Then she stops. There's a hard inquiry from yesterday, she says. A mortgage broker. I lean forward to see the screen. The inquiry is recent. Yesterday afternoon, by a broker named Consolidated Property Solutions. I didn't contact any mortgage broker. Nora looks at me. I'm going to call them before we do anything else. Nora calls Consolidated Property Solutions while I sit in her office. She identifies herself as my legal counsel and asks to speak with whoever handled the recent inquiry tied to my name and property address. A man answers. He sounds friendly and professional. He says he was expecting a follow-up call. Nora asks him to confirm the nature of the application. Cash out refinance, he says, on the primary residence. He gives my address. We already have consent from the property owner to proceed. The authorization came through Miss Marston's son-in-law, who has power of attorney for financial matters. Nora's expression doesn't change. Her voice stays even. Could you provide the documentation of that power of attorney? She says. A pause. We received it electronically. From what email address? He reads it. It's close to my email address. Not my email address. Close. Nora says, please do not proceed with this application. You are now on notice that the authorization you received was not from the property owner and is being investigated as potential fraud. I'll be sending a formal cease and desist within the hour. She hangs up. She looks at me. Someone filed for a cash-out refinance on your home, she says. They used a power of attorney that doesn't exist, sent from an email address that spoofs yours. If this had gone through, someone would have had access to the equity in your paid-off house. My knees go weak. I press them together under the table. Miles told Brooke he has a power of attorney for my financial matters, I say. He doesn't. I know he doesn't, Nora says, because if one existed, I'd have found it in your documents. She picks up her pen. And now I need you to tell me something. When did you last see Miles in person? I go to Brooke's house the next afternoon. Not to confront anyone. Not armed with what I know. Just returning a sweater Brooke left in my car 2 weeks ago, which is a real reason. A normal reason. The kind of reason that's beyond question. Brooke's car is in the driveway. Miles's car is in the garage. I can see it through the small window in the garage door. I ring the bell. No one answers. I'm about to leave the sweater on the porch when I hear voices from inside. The front room. The office is on the other side of the house. But the front room has windows that transmit sound outward when they're not completely sealed, which Brooke mentioned years ago and never got fixed. Miles's voice? Confident. Speaking to someone on the phone or to Brooke, I can't tell. If her mom files anything, she'll look crazy, and we'll still get the house. My whole body goes cold from the inside out. I stand absolutely still on the porch. Then Brooke's voice. Low and afraid. coming from inside close to the window. "Mom?" She can see me through the window. She can see me standing there. Her face appears at the glass for a moment. She mouths something. I can't read it clearly. Then she steps back, and I hear her say, even softer, barely reaching me through the glass, "Mom, he's been recording you." I set the sweater on the porch railing and walk back to my car. My hands are shaking when I start the engine. Not from fear. From the specific, clarifying anger that comes when you understand precisely what has been done to you. Brooke calls me that night at 11, after Miles is asleep. She whispers. I can hear the careful way she's breathing, the effort of keeping her voice below the level that would wake him. She tells me what she knows, which is more than I expected and less than the full picture. Miles has been recording interactions with me, not all of them, selectively. Moments when I was upset or scared or showing emotion about Frank. He replays them for Brooke as evidence. "See how she is," he says. "This is what I'm protecting you from." He showed her a recording from a Sunday dinner 3 months ago when I cried talking about Frank's birthday. "She's unstable," he told Brooke. "She needs help we can't provide." He baited at least 2 conversations. Brooke is fairly sure of this in retrospect, by introducing topics about Frank's death that he knew would make me emotional, then hitting record when the emotion surfaced. He wanted a record of instability. He wanted documentation he could point to. Because he knew that when I found out what he was doing, and he knew I would eventually, he wanted to be able to say I was unreliable, confused, prone to overreaction. Not a credible witness to my own life. He sent something to relatives, Brooke says, a message, about you, about concerns for your mental state. A pause. He's been doing it quietly for months. I write everything she tells me in my notebook. Dated, timed, everything. When I call Nora in the morning and read her the notes, she says 2 things. Don't react to the recordings. He wants a reaction. Documentation is your counter. And then, Paula, is there anything from your husband's estate you haven't fully reviewed? A sealed letter. Frank's attorney, a man named Clifford Baines, who Frank used for 20 years, called me about 8 months after Frank died and mentioned a document he was holding that Frank had asked him to keep sealed until a time when Paula might need it. I was deep in grief at that point. I told Clifford I'd come in when I was ready. I never went in. I call Clifford Baines the next morning. He still has it. Nora comes with me to his office. We sit across from Clifford, who is in his 70s and has the unhurried manner of a man who has been practicing law long enough to have seen most things and is surprised by fewer and fewer of them. He produces the envelope, Frank's handwriting on the front. Paula, when you need this. Clifford says, he told me he hoped you'd never need it. He also said you'd know what it meant when you did. Nora asks to review it professionally before I open it emotionally. A practical suggestion I appreciate. She reads it first. I watch her face. Her expression, which has been professionally neutral through our entire working relationship, changes, not dramatically, but a small shift that I've learned to read as significance. She looks up at me. Frank built a protective trust mechanism into the property documents, she says. A clause that activates if anyone attempts coercion or fraudulent transfer of the property. If those conditions are met, the clause creates automatic protections that require legal proceeding to override. I stare at her. He anticipated someone might try to take advantage of you, she says. After he was gone. I look at the envelope with Frank's handwriting on it. My husband, who I lost on a Tuesday morning, who has been gone for 2 years, reaching forward from whenever he wrote this and doing exactly what he always did, solving a problem before it arrived. Nora's voice is quiet. If Miles has been meddling with your property, he just triggered safeguards your husband set up. Nora sends formal notices within 24 hours. To Consolidated Property Solutions, cease all contact regarding the fraudulent application, require in-person verified authorization for any future contact, preserve all documentation related to the application submission. To the 2 financial institutions, formal fraud claims on each account with notification of ongoing investigation, requirement for in-person identity verification before any changes. To the bank that held the joint application, formal challenge, documentation of my whereabouts on the date of the time-stamped signature, Demand for preservation of all application materials. Everything documented. Everything in writing. Every notice sent certified mail with return receipt. Nora also contacts Clifford Baines about the protective trust mechanism. They work through the documentation together. The clause Frank built is real and properly recorded. It requires a legal proceeding to override, which means no one can move the property, refinance it, or create any encumbrance against it without going through a court process in which I am a noticed party. Miles cannot touch my house without my knowledge. Not legally. Not without a judge involved. 2 days after Nora sends the notices, Miles appears at my front door. He rings the bell at 10 in the morning on a Wednesday. He's dressed well. His expression is friendly, pleasant. The face he showed me in Brooke's kitchen when he flipped the switch to charming. I open the door and look at him. He says, "Paula, can we talk like adults? I think there's been a misunderstanding." I look at Miles standing on my porch. He's holding nothing, no documents, no offerings, just himself and that practiced pleasantness. "I appreciate you coming by," I say, neutral, polite. He smiles. "I think things have gotten a little out of hand. There's been some confusion about what I've been trying to do, and I want to clear it up directly." "That makes sense," I say. "I care about Brooke, and I care about our family, and I care about you, Paula. I want to make sure you're protected. That's what all of this has been about." He says the word protected the way someone says a word they've been told is helpful. "I appreciate that," I say. "What was the paper you wanted me to sign?" His expression shifts slightly, recalibrating. He hadn't expected a direct reference to what he mentioned to Brooke. "Just something that would formalize arrangements," he says. "Make things cleaner legally. I can get you a copy if you want to have a look." "Email it to Nora Beck," I say. "She handles all my legal documents." Something in his face changes. The warmth doesn't go out entirely, but it cools at the edges. A professional disappointment. "You have an attorney," he says. "I do." He nods slowly. That's fine." He's choosing his next words carefully. "Paula, I just want to make sure this doesn't damage your relationship with Brooke. That's what I'm worried about. She needs her mother." "She does," I agree. "That's why I'm making sure I'm still here." He tries one more angle. His voice drops to something warmer, more intimate. Like we're family, like we're close, like this is a private moment between people who trust each other. "Don't make me choose between protecting my family and having a relationship with you," he says. I look at him for a moment. "Email everything to Nora Beck," I say. His jaw tightens. Just slightly. Just enough. "You're going to lose your daughter," he says. "My sister-in-law Nancy's birthday falls in November. Frank's sister, who has been part of my life for 28 years. She gathers family every November at her house, a comfortable place in the older part of town, where the oak trees are large enough to form canopies over the street. Brooke and Miles come. I come. Frank's family comes. Miles is good at these gatherings. He moves through rooms with ease, remembers details, asks the right questions, makes people feel attended to. He works a room the way a skilled professional works a room. I sit with Nancy and Frank's Aunt Beverly and drink coffee and watch. About an hour in, Miles settles into a chair near the fireplace where 2 of Frank's cousins are sitting. He creates a small audience, natural and unforced. He starts speaking in the tone he uses when he wants to seem reluctant but has something to say. He talks about me. Carefully. The framing is concern. He uses phrases like, "We worry about her," and "she's been struggling since Frank." And sometimes when she comes over she seems disoriented. Disoriented. A word chosen for exactly the impression it makes. Beverly catches my eye across the room. Her expression asks a question. I shake my head slightly. "Not now, I'm watching." Then Brooke, who has been in the kitchen helping Nancy with something, comes into the room. She stops just inside the doorway. She's looking at Miles, at the small audience around him, at the faces of the people he's performing for. Her hands at her sides begin to tremble. She looks at me. I look back at her. Something moves across her face that I've seen once before, many years ago. The night she decided she was done with a friendship that had been slowly hurting her. That particular resolution that looks like grief and courage at the same time. She takes 3 steps into the room and says, clearly enough for everyone nearby to hear, "He's been using my mom's name." The room goes quiet. in the way a room does when something real has just been said. Miles turns to look at Brooke. His expression is the same expression he had in my doorway, the controlled warmth that he can maintain through most challenges. He starts to speak. Brooke, he applied for a refinance on her home without her knowledge, Brooke says. Her voice is shaking, but her words are clear. He changed her phone number on her bank accounts. He had a lock installed at her house without asking her. He's been recording her. Frank's cousin Alan is looking at Miles. Beverly is looking at him. Nancy has come out of the kitchen. Deacon Riley is in the corner of the room where he's been for the past hour, a quiet presence I invited specifically, and he's looking at Miles with the expression of a man watching something confirm a suspicion he's held for a while. Miles looks around the room. The audience he was performing for has become something different. They're not nodding along anymore. They're watching him in the specific way people watch when they're reassessing. He turns back to Brooke. His voice drops to the intimate, controlled tone. The private channel. Honey, this isn't the place for... Aunt Beverly saw your messages, Brooke says. You sent a group message about Mom being unstable. Beverly showed me. Beverly nods. You added me to that group by accident, she says to Miles. I saw everything. Miles is quiet for 2 seconds. Then he stands. He moves toward the door. The gathered silence in the room follows him. In the doorway, he pauses. He looks at Brooke. She's still in the middle of the room. Her hands have stopped shaking. He leaves. The door closes. Everyone watches Brooke. Brooke looks at the door for a moment. Then she turns around and walks back toward me. Brooke doesn't chase him. She walks across the room with her hands steady now, which takes something I recognize because I've seen her reach for it her whole life. The same composure Frank had. The composure that comes up from somewhere deep when everything else has been stripped away. She sits down next to me. Nancy brings her coffee. Beverly puts a hand on her shoulder. Deacon Riley, from his corner of the room, gives me a quiet look. I nod. Later that night, after the gathering ends, and Brooke comes home with me because she needs somewhere to be that isn't her house, I call Nora. Nora doesn't sound surprised by anything I tell her. She says, get me everything Brooke is willing to provide. Texts, emails, the group message Beverly received. Everything. We have the financial fraud documentation. We have your husband's protective clause. And now we have testimony from your daughter about what she's seen directly. What happens now? Now I file protective orders. On the financial accounts, on the property, and on your daughter's joint finances, which she has the right to separate if she chooses. A pause. What does Brooke want? I look at my daughter sitting at my kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea, looking at the surface of the table with the specific exhaustion of someone who has been bracing for a long time and is finally allowing herself to stop. She wants out, I say. Then we help her get out. The protective orders go in within 48 hours. Nora files at my account level and at the property level. The protective trust mechanism Frank built, activated by the fraudulent attempts against the property, creates an automatic notification requirement. Any attempt to file anything against my property generates an alert to Nora's office and requires my written consent obtained in person. Miles cannot touch my house, cannot file against it, refinance it, claim authority over it. Every door Frank thought to close is closed. The financial institutions cooperate fully once they understand the fraud investigation is active and documented. The unauthorized inquiry on my credit is flagged. The joint application with the fake signature is referred for investigation. My contact information is restored to my actual email and phone. Nora sends a formal notice to the relatives who received Miles's group message, not threatening, just informing. The record is corrected. My position is clear. Brooke meets with Nora separately, which I stay out of entirely because this is Brooke's situation and Brooke's decision, and I am her mother, not her attorney. Miles tries twice to reach me directly. First through a text message, polite and reasonable, suggesting that things have been misunderstood and a conversation could clear everything up. I forward it to Nora. Then through Brooke, asking her to have me call him. Brooke says no. After the second attempt, a week passes without contact. Then 2 weeks. Then a month. Nora tells me that Miles's broker contact has gone quiet. The cease and desist was effective. The bank fraud investigation is proceeding through official channels without requiring my ongoing involvement. Everything is moving through the system. And the system is working. 6 weeks after Nancy's birthday gathering, Brooke and Miles signed separation papers. It isn't fast. It isn't clean. It isn't without pain. No honest account of ending a marriage would describe it as anything other than what it is. A loss of something that was supposed to be permanent. The grief of a future that has to be remade from different materials. But it happens. Brooke moves her essentials to my house while she looks for her own apartment. We live together for 11 weeks. We eat dinner together most nights. We watch movies sometimes, and sometimes just sit in the living room reading our separate books, in the particular comfortable quiet of people who have been each other's company long enough that they don't need to fill the silence. I hear her cry some nights. I don't go in unless she calls. I let her have the grief she needs. She's stronger than I sometimes think she is. Stronger than Miles thought she was. The cousins who received the group message where Miles called me unstable have had their understanding corrected. Beverly made sure of it, quietly, in the thorough way Beverly does things. The narrative he tried to build didn't survive contact with the people who've known me for 20 years. Nora's final accounting of the situation, delivered in a summary letter to my file, lists the outcomes. All fraudulent applications have been closed and flagged. All unauthorized account changes have been reversed. The protective trust mechanism on my property is permanently active. The financial fraud investigation remains ongoing with the appropriate institutions. My house is protected. My finances are protected. My daughter is safe. Frank would have said, quietly, that it turned out exactly as planned. Spring comes, and Brooke finds an apartment 4 miles from me. It's a second-floor unit in a brick building with good light and a parking spot and a lease in her own name, signed by her, without anyone co-signing or overseeing or controlling. She signs it, and I see her face when she hands back the pen. And I recognize the feeling behind her expression, because I felt it myself 30 years ago when Frank and I bought our first home. The specific satisfaction of ownership. Something that's yours. I help her move on a Saturday in April. We carry boxes up the stairs together and the building super holds the elevator, and by 3 in the afternoon her furniture is in place in her new apartment. She looks around the living room, then at me. "Thank you," she says. "You did this," I say. She shakes her head. "You stayed steady. When everything was being used to make you look like the problem, you stayed steady." I think about that. About what staying steady actually required. The documentation when I wanted to react. The organized folders when I wanted to scream. The calls to Nora when everything in me wanted to drive to Brooke's house and demand answers. The patience I had to build like a structure brick by brick, on top of the fear and the grief and the anger. Miles called me a problem. He built a case around my emotions, gathered recordings of my grief, whispered into family groups about my instability. He counted on my widowhood making me desperate, and my love for Brooke making me reckless. He miscalculated what I'm made of. He didn't know about Frank's sealed letter. He didn't know about Deacon Riley. He didn't know about Beverly receiving the group message by accident. He didn't know about Mrs. Weller's equivalent in my life, the neighbor Audrey who called when the locksmith appeared. He didn't know that I have been documenting my life meticulously for 30 years, because Frank taught me that organizations live or die on their records, and what we were building together was worth recording carefully. He didn't know that what he saw as isolation, my widowhood, my single life, my occasional soup delivery to my daughter, was actually just patience. The patience of someone who has been building for a long time and knows that building doesn't stop. I'm not the problem, I'm the proof. I drive home in the April afternoon light, past the trees that are just starting to green up, past the cemetery where I'll go on Thursday with the same flowers I always bring. I turn onto my street and pull into my driveway and go inside my house, my paid-off, protected, legally secured house that Frank and I bought together and that Frank, even in death, thought to protect. I make tea. I sit at my kitchen table. The house is quiet. It is exactly the right kind of quiet.